Welcome to Football with Cheese. So in this video, we've got to talk about the Detroit Lions, how disappointing their season's gone, and why I think they are the most disappointing team in the NFL. We'll get to that in a second, but first, if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell for notification and share this with anyone who loves football because I cover all 32 teams on this channel. So expectations were huge for Detroit. In the 2023 season, they probably should have won the Super Bowl, had a huge lead on the 49ers in the NFC title game, completely blew it, and I think they would have beaten the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. We have no way of knowing. And last year, they had some defensive injuries. Obviously, Aiden Hutchinson was out for the year with that terrible leg injury, and they absolutely collapsed in the playoffs. Jared Goff was horrible in the game against Washington, just a disaster. So a lot of people, including myself, thought they were one of the best teams in the NFC. I did pick Green Bay to win the division, had the Lions second, but I still expected them to make the postseason. I don't know anyone that didn't predict the Lions to at least be a wild card. And obviously, they're now tied for last place with Minnesota. So why did the Lions have a bad season? There's a lot of reasons. It's not just one thing you can point out. Let's just start with injuries. The defense has been bad of late, especially the last month or two. Losing Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch has been devastating to the defense. They don't have good backup safeties. That is the best safety group in the NFL, in my opinion. Kirby Joseph, one of the best center fielders, and Brian Branch, maybe the most versatile safety in the NFL. I don't think he's the best, but he's probably the most versatile because he can play in the slot, he can play in the box, he can play deep. And losing both of those has just devastated, which was a defense that a lot of people probably would have thought top 10, maybe not top 5, but top 10 defense in the NFL. Aiden Hutchinson obviously was back, but he just wasn't the same. I think he needs another year to get over that leg injury. A lot of times that happens with like torn Achilles or broken legs. It just takes an extra year to get back to where you were at. If you remember, Hutchinson was on his way to winning Defensive Player of the Year. He was absolutely dominant last year, and obviously his leg basically shattered the bone. Oh, I don't even want to talk about it. It was so gross. And he just hasn't been the same. But Lions fans are hope he can return to form. He's still a good player, just not that elite player. Now, what else went wrong? Well, the interior of the offensive line has been a problem. All three guys, Graham Glasgow, Christian Mahogany, Tate Ratledge, are good run blockers, and they struggle pass blocking. So we know Jared Goff is not very mobile. You can have maybe one interior offensive lineman struggle at pass blocking, but you can't have three. So the running game hasn't been an issue, but they lost some games because those interior guys could not pass block. And we just talked about Jared Goff. He's just one of the least mobile starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Obviously, Frank Ragnow retired, tried to come back, didn't really have a hamstring. But that has really hurt the Lions' offensive line. But for the most part, the offense has still been very good. You have Jahmyr Gibbs. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jameson Williams had a really good season. Sam Laporta, another injury that hurt. But the offense, for the most part, has not been the problem. And we have to talk about this. I don't know if Lions fans want to keep hearing this. Both of the coordinators last year, the defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, were outstanding. I know Ben Johnson's talked about more because his play design, his play calling was outstanding. He's now the coach of the Bears. But Aaron Glenn down the stretch last year, to me, caught some unbelievable defensive game plans when the Lions defense had so many injuries. The defensive line, basically, all of them are out. And they're still playing good defense in some games because of Aaron Glenn. He gets the head coaching job with the Jets. It has not gone well, but it's just year one. We'll see what happens going forward. But Kelvin Sheppard replaced him, just has not gone as smoothly. And head coach Dan Campbell took over play calling, and he's just not Ben Johnson. He's just not. So that has been a big issue. The coordinators, I don't know if they'll make a change. I feel bad for both of them. It's really hard to replace two of the best coordinators in the NFL who got head coaching jobs. There's a reason they did. But some people actually are calling for Dan Campbell's job. Some Lions fans on X. A little surprised. I think he's a good motivator. But even some are calling for Brad Holmes to be fired. My friend Meat, yeah, we call him Meat, he even messaged me and said, if Brad Holmes does not fix this for next year, he should be fired. I think that's a little crazy. The reason the Lions are so good and so talented is because of Brad Holmes. You can argue maybe the Eagles ahead of him, but one of the two best drafting teams over the last 5 years. Since he took over, he was the director of scouting for the Rams, one of the best run organizations in the NFL. So scouting background, focus on the draft, and he has done outstanding in 4 of his 5 drafts. Let's just quickly go over them. His first draft, Penei Sewell, Aleem McNeil, Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 4th round. Unbelievable pick, one of the best receivers in the NFL. 2022, obviously took Aiden Hutchinson, 2nd overall. Everyone and their mom would have done that except for the Jaguars. They didn't take him number 1. Crazy. And then got Jameson Williams. Looked like a reach at the time, but definitely worked out this year. Kerby Joseph in the 3rd round. Absolute steal. In 2023, this is one of the best drafts in recent memory. Now, he had 2 first-rounders and 2 second-rounders. So that helps. But he took Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell in the 1st round. By the way, both picks were trashed by draft analysts. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And then he took Sam Laporta and Brian Branch in the 2nd round. All 4 of those players are among the best at their position in the NFL. If you just do top 5 at their position, I would put all 4 in the top 5. That's how good they are. One of the reasons why they should have won the Super Bowl in 2023. Absolutely nailed that draft. 2024 draft, pretty bad. We'll just kind of skip that. They did get starting left guard Christian Mahogany in the 6th round. But so far that draft has not gone well. Jury's still out. They're only in their 2nd year. And I really like their 2025 draft. It got a lot of criticism from draft analysts, but Tyreek Williams, probably a reach for a 1st-round pick, but they needed depth at defensive tackle, and he's a really good run stopper, so I get it. 2nd round, they took Tate Ratledge, guard from Georgia. We mentioned him. Very good run blocker. Needs to get stronger to handle the bull rush better. And Isaac Tesla in the 3rd round. That guy is a highlight reel waiting to happen. He's made some amazing catches, really athletic, still raw, but he looks like he could be a star. So Brad Holmes, to me, has nailed 4 of his 5 drafts. And the 2023 draft, just unbelievable. So I don't think he's the problem. I get it, some fans are frustrated, but let's talk about the game against the Vikings. I saw terrible effort. I saw a team that didn't want to play, didn't want to be there, and they still had a shot to make the playoffs. If they beat Minnesota and then Chicago, and the Packers lose both their games, they're in the playoffs. And the Packers did lose to the Ravens. And they could lose at Minnesota, because Minnesota has been playing better. But Detroit just looked like they phoned it in. Looked like they didn't even want to be in the playoffs. I'm trying not to be a football conspiracy theorist, but it looked like they were trying to lose at times. Goff was awful. The offensive line was terrible. It just weren't in the game at all. 6 turnovers to 0. I saw this stat. Max Brosmer, whatever his name is, the Vikings quarterback, is the only quarterback in the Super Bowl era to play the entire game, finish with under 70 passing yards and 7 sacks and still win the game, and they won 23-10. He had 3 net passing yards because there were 7 sacks. Unbelievable. Just don't see stats like it. There was even a play, and I'll link it in the description, where there was a 4th down around midfield, and the Lions false started. And right before the play happened, someone on the Lions sideline did the false start move, and then they did false start. So it was almost like they're trying to lose the game. Let me know in the comments, Lions fans, or anyone watching. Do you think they were trying to lose? Do you want to lose games at this point, get a higher draft pick, maybe be last place in the division? We'll talk about that in a second. Because that was one of the worst performances I have seen from a team this year. Maybe not as bad as the Cardinals against the Titans, but definitely the worst performance I've seen them under Dan Campbell. Usually a Dan Campbell team doesn't come out and play that terrible. Now, I mentioned last place in the division. Let's just talk about the Bears real quick. One of the main reasons they won the division, besides Green Bay giving them a game, is they played a last place schedule. 14 of the 17 games, everyone plays the same in the division. But those 3 games are so important. The Bears were playing the Raiders, when the Vikings were playing the Chargers, when the Packers were playing the Broncos, and when the Lions were playing the Chiefs. That is huge. And they did beat the Raiders. And those other 3 teams lost those games. So that's a huge advantage. They also played the Saints, while the Lions were playing the Buccaneers. Now, I did some research and looked up the opponents for next year. If the Lions finish last, they're tied for last in Minnesota. So if the Lions lose to the Bears, probably will the way they're playing, and the Bears are still trying to get the number 2 seed, assuming the Bears don't rest players. And the Vikings beat Green Bay. Packers very likely to rest players because they're locked into the 7th seed. Although the way Malik Willis is playing, maybe they can win. Let's just say the Lions do finish last. They will play the Titans with that extra game, while the Vikings play the Colts, the Packers play the Texans, and the Bears playing the Jaguars. The Texans-Jaguars could flip if the Texans win and the Jaguars lose to the Titans at home. Very unlikely. We're assuming the Jaguars beat the Titans and win the division. So Bears will get the Jaguars, Packers, Texans, Vikings will play the Colts, and the Colts could be really good next year. Great roster. They just need a quarterback. And the Lions would get the Titans at home. Here's the other games they'd get. They would play the Arizona Cardinals, while the Vikings, Packers, and Bears would play the Rams, Niners, and Seahawks, depending on what happens in Week 18. And the final game, the Bears are definitely playing the Eagles. The Packers are definitely playing the Cowboys. That is locked in. And depending what happens, the Commanders and the Giants are one game apart. But very likely, if they finish last, the Lions will play the Giants. So to recap, the Lions would play the Titans, Cardinals, and Giants in this scenario. The Bears would play something like Jaguars, Seahawks, Eagles. Packers would play something like Texans, Rams, Cowboys. Vikings would play Colts, 49ers, Commanders. So that is a huge advantage. And we know the Lions have a great roster. We know they will still be a contender next year in the NFC. With that schedule, I might pick them to win the division. We'll see. Depends on Micah Parsons' rehab, because their defense isn't the same without him. So, to conclude the video, the Lions to me are the most disappointing team because I think they had a top 5 roster going into the season. I expected them to win at least 12, 13 games, and they're 8-8. I know there was injuries, but there were injuries last year. It just seemed like all those 4th downs they got last year, they didn't get this year. They didn't execute in some games. They didn't finish in some games. So that is why they're my most disappointing team. Let me know in the comments, Lions. Do you agree with me? I know the Bengals and Commanders had Super Bowl aspirations and they're terrible, but to me the Lions are better than those teams. They have fewer flaws. So I expect the Lions to be one of the best teams in the NFL. It just hasn't worked out. Once again, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up. Really helps out the channel. Me and Mike do the Lights Out podcast every Tuesday night, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Link in the description. We talk baseball, college football, and of course, NFL. If you have not, please check out this video, and I'll see you in the next one.